fathers and support people. My name is Kelsey Berkey, and I have been invited by Molly and the staff here at the baby shower to tell you my story. So my husband and I got married, and shortly thereafter decided that it was time to start trying to have a baby. And so from the moment we decided that it was time to start trying, I started taking prenatal vitamins and read all sorts of self-help books on pregnancy and what to do when you were expecting and what to do when the baby came. And none of that really prepared me for what would actually happen. Our son Max was born on March 31st of 2011. He was an absolutely perfect baby. He was born at 7 pounds even. He had the cutest blonde hair, which is really funny because my husband and I both have dark hair, and a little butt chin. He went to all of his well baby checks and passed with flying colors. I took off 7 weeks with Maxton Foster, that was his name. I took off 7 weeks with Max, and I worked at a credit union at that time, and it was time to go back to the credit union, and so I took Max to the sitter. My husband and I put a lot of effort and time into finding the perfect daycare provider. And so I felt very confident in my decision, and when I took Max the first day, he did very well. I came and picked him up from daycare that day. I had only worked a half day, and the daycare provider looked at me and she said, "Wow, Kelsey, you did really good. Most first-time moms call 4 or 5 times a day to check on their babies." And I wasn't like that. I was very confident with Max. I was fearless, actually. The second day of daycare, I had a reverse half day, meaning that I didn't work in the morning, but I worked in the afternoon. And Max and I slept in. Funny thing with Max, I read all of those self-help books and thought I was absolutely prepared, but really I wasn't. He didn't sleep very well, so I either let him sleep in his car seat beside my bed, or most of the time he slept on my chest, tummy to tummy, in bed with my husband and I. And I dropped Max off that second day of daycare. We had spent a perfect morning together. It was absolutely amazing. I breastfed him. I combed his hair. We sang lullabies. It was truthfully a fantastic morning. But anyway, I dropped him off at daycare that day, and I went to work. When I dropped him off, though, I remember talking to his daycare provider, and I said, "I didn't tell you this yesterday, but Max is pretty spoiled, and he's not going to sleep very well for you on his back. He sleeps on his tummy because he sleeps on my chest. So if you want to go ahead and put him down on his tummy, that would be fine with me." And our daycare provider kind of looked at me and giggled. She said, "Kelsey, I'm licensed by the state, and that means that I have to put your baby to bed on his back." And I just kind of looked at her like, "All right, you're crazy, lady. He's not going to take a nap for you." But anyway, I left Max at daycare that day, and I wasn't at work for more than probably an hour and a half or 2 hours, and there was a police officer that came into the bank, and he asked me to speak with my supervisor. And so I took him back to my supervisor, and it's funny the things that you remember. I remember exactly what I said to him, and walking back there and showing him my supervisor, and then I remember the supervisor walking back to me and saying, "Kelsey, you need to go with the police officer because your son is very sick." And I remember the car ride. I remember everything there. I looked at the police officer and I said, "What happened?" And he said, "I can't tell you that, ma'am." And I said, "Can you at least tell me if my son is alive?" And he was able to tell me that yes, my son was still alive, but that he was in critical condition. My husband met me at the hospital, and when we got there, from that point on, it was kind of a blur. I remember police officers coming in and questioning us about Maxton and if he was a healthy baby and what we did to him or didn't do to him, or if he was vaccinated, and asking us all of these questions, and I didn't know what to think or what to do because my baby was laying there on the hospital table with people surrounding him and tubes and IVs coming from him. And what I later learned is that when the daycare provider put Maxton down for his nap, she put him in a pack and play by himself on his back in her designated nap room, and she walked by to check on him not more than 15 minutes later, and he was blue. And at that time she called 911, and the officers and the fire department got there and they were able to revive him. Max ended up being on a ventilator. They did a lot of testing and he had no brain function. He had been without oxygen for anywhere from 20 to 40 minutes. They can't say exactly. He was in intensive care for 9 days. After all of the extensive testing, we were told that Maxton would probably never breathe on his own again. And my husband and I, at that point, decided that we would take him off of life support. Maxton came off of life support and took 2 breaths and died in our arms. That's not something that a self-help book ever prepares you for. My husband and I have 3 additional children now. We have a 7-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old, and they are fantastic. I don't share this story with you to scare you, but I share it with you because I ask you, I beg you, I plead with you to please take safe sleep into consideration. My husband and I did everything that we could to keep our baby safe, and it still wasn't enough. Babies die. And if you can take a minimal amount of effort and put that baby to bed on its back and in a crib and alone, I guarantee, even if they don't sleep well that way, waking up 3 times a night because your baby isn't sleeping is well worth it. It's worth it to have your baby, and it's worth it to lack some sleep, because truthfully that is the safest way for babies to sleep. So again, thank you for listening to my story, and every time you're frustrated and think that it would be so much easier just to take a nap with your baby, please remember my story and think of my Maxton. Congratulations, and I wish you all the best. Thanks again.